So hi everybody, I'm from the University of Wolverhampton. My name is Dr. Stephanie Brewster and I'm a senior lecturer in the Institute of Education, and I'm here to talk to you about some of the courses and the career possibilities that might be open to you if you're interested in education. So we have a vision. All organisations have a vision, don't they? I'm not going to read this out to you or even expect you to read it in detail, but just have a look at the bottom line there. We make a positive difference in transforming people's lives. That's what I'm doing every day in my work as an educator, and you could too if you go into a career in education. And I'm going to talk through, there's quite a lot of different possibilities open to you that you might not have come across before. So I'm hoping that it might be of interest to some of you. So as I say, I'm a tutor in the Institute of Education. We're based at Walsall campus, and a lot of our students come from the local area. Some come from further afield, but we have really strong links with our local population. And all or even many or even all of our courses have a really inclusive approach to students who really feel like they belong on our courses, even if they might not come from a family who've been to university. It might be a real step into the unknown, but when students come to us, they really feel that sense of community and appreciate, you know, huge amounts of support that's available from the university. A lot of our students come to us at age 18, straight after A-levels or, you know, sixth form. But we do have many mature students and also people who are already in a career in education, for instance, being a school teacher, and they come to us to do continuing professional development, which means doing part courses for your career once it's underway. We're all actively engaged in that. Might be a student. All of our students, they're going out on placement quite often, and for people who are quite practical, want to get stuck into real life settings as a worker, then placements are going to be a key part of your course for you. I'm going to start talking about some of the academic routes at an undergraduate level. So undergraduate study is what you can do as an 18-year-old or older, you know, going straight into university for the first time. And I'm going to talk about these three course areas they don't offer a professional qualification as such, but they offer a really strong academic grounding in different aspects of education, so that you can then either go straight into a career of your choice or move into postgraduate courses to help you get qualified. We offer a 4-year option if you want or need to do a foundation year first, but most of our students do a 3-year full-time degree. We have lots of part-time students now, and that takes 6 years. And these are the 4 course areas that we offer: early childhood studies, young people, family and communities, education studies, and special educational needs, disability and inclusion studies. And it really just depends on where your interest lies, where you think your career might be headed. Some students do end up kind of transferring between courses because there's a lot of overlap there. But we have, you know, really significant student numbers on all of these degrees. In terms of foundation degrees, so these are for students, particularly those who are already working, perhaps, for instance, as a classroom assistant, and so they've got some practitioner expertise, and they might not have good academic qualifications to get onto a degree, but we recognise their professional experience, and these foundation degrees are for them. And there's the supporting children in primary education and the early years services foundation degrees, and those run in our partner colleges, not actually on university campus. So the kinds of topics that are covered on all 4 of those course areas are issues to do with safeguarding, particularly for children and families, but also learners of whatever age. There's always a research component where you as a student go and search a real world problem, and that's a real highlight for a lot of students in their final year. There's a strong emphasis on professional practice, and obviously the emphasis of that is different on the different courses, but it's very oriented around you gaining insight into what it means to be an early years teacher, or a further education college lecturer, or a youth worker, or any number of other careers associated with education. The courses have a really strong emphasis around social justice. Why is it that some children are really bright and yet they fail to get the qualifications that they should? Why do they underperform in their GCSEs or their A-levels? That's a real issue around fairness. That's what we mean about social justice. There's some really interesting stuff to study there. We also emphasise on all of the courses diversity and inclusion. In the Black Country, in this local area, we've got a very multicultural population. It's very diverse in all sorts of different ways, socioeconomic status, issues to do with disability and so on. We encompass all of that, not only in the content of what we teach, but also how we teach. So if you perhaps don't fit whatever you think is the model student mould, don't worry, because we've got students with a really wide range of backgrounds and abilities, and we welcome you all. So here are some of the possible career paths that you might follow if you took one of those 4 academic degrees. And there's some there that you might not have anticipated. You can see some of those are, very explicitly related to schools and education, but some of our graduates go on to work in the charities or the voluntary sector, or in the criminal justice system, local authorities, working with families and parents. There's actually a really wide range of jobs out there. So those were our academic courses. I'm now going to move on to the courses we teach here at Walsall for teacher training. So we're going to be looking at primary, secondary and post-compulsory education in that order. So before the campus at Walsall became part of the University of Wolverhampton, it was actually a teacher training college. So we've got a long history, and we're a really big provider of teacher training in the West Midlands. There's a number of different ways of going about becoming a primary school teacher. So for instance, you might leave college and go straight into a Bachelor of Arts honours degree, full-time, to do primary education. Alternatively, you might do a degree in something else. For instance, one of those degrees I was just telling you about, before then going on to a postgraduate certificate of education. That's what PGC is. So you would do after completing your degree, you would do 1 year full-time learning how to be a primary teacher, and much of that would actually be spent in school on placement. I'm not going to talk about each individual detailed route there, partly because I suspect it's not going to relate well to where you are, but also I'm not actually involved in teacher training. So I'm talking about courses here that are from my area of the university. But if people have queries about this, I would really recommend you come to one of the university open days. They're still running, but they're online at the moment. Hopefully maybe next year we'll get people visiting campus again for sort of in-person open days. But we always have lots and lots of inquiries around primary education and routes into teaching. They do change quite frequently, so you know, nearer the time you might want to look at some of the fine print and get some detailed advice from my colleagues about what route into teaching would suit you best. So what would you gain from doing our primary teacher training course? Well, as I said, you get lots of opportunity for placements actually in primary school settings, but you'd also get some wider experience, for instance, around special educational needs and disability or secondary education. Some of the generic things you would cover might be, for instance, safeguarding and the PREVENT programme training. In common with all the other courses, you would undertake a research project for yourself, something that you find really interesting and want to investigate. And this, you know, assuming you pass, that will lead you to qualified teacher status, so then you can go on and get a job in schools. Many of our graduates move into perhaps early years or special educational needs and disability settings, so there's, you know, some scope there for following your special interests. And some students who get their bachelor's degree go on to do a master's degree at our university. So here are just some of the comments that previous students have said, and also some of our external examiners. But I'm going to whiz through now the secondary education. With secondary education, obviously you need a bit more knowledge of the subject you're going to teach. And here is the range of subjects that you could choose as a secondary school teacher and choose for your training. So by secondary we mean from 11 to 16, mainly. Again, there's different routes into initial teacher training. Some students might do a BA, or that's a Bachelor of Arts, or a BSc, Bachelor of Science, secondary education degree programme. There's also the PGCE option, the Postgraduate Certificate in Education, and that would be after doing a first degree. There's also, as I said, for primary, you know, there's a range of other routes into becoming a secondary school teacher, depending on kind of your background, your experience, your qualifications, and what your current circumstances are. So I'd really recommend you talk to us at an open day to explore that. So from the course, again, you'll go on placement, you'll do some of the generic aspects of learning how to be a teacher, and of course any student at the university can use our huge careers advice service, and we actually have a careers advisor specifically for education who's there for one-to-one support, developing practice in interview skills, filling in application forms, and so on. So we've got lots of graduates out there. Maybe you've been taught by some of our secondary.
Sorry, Stephanie, I'm going to have to stop you there. But they have. I did my PGCE at Wolverhampton.
Okay, yeah. I mean, the final one, post-compulsory education for older students, and many of the points I've already made apply to that as well. So
Well,
I hope that's of interest. Thanks for listening.